I thought my best friend's wife was cheating. The shocking truth left us all speechless. I had ridden with my best friend Bill Jackson to a golf tournament near Bloomsburg. We had played in a captain and crew fundraiser for his alma mater's basketball team. 2 of his old frat buddies met us there, and we had managed to shoot 3 under par. That was good enough to come in third in the third flight. I never understood the scoring procedure at these tournaments, but I knew enough to realize we had excelled at mediocrity. It was like being the 3rd smartest person in the dumb group at school, except we took home a few sleeves of golf balls for our efforts. Bill and I were nursing a couple beers before heading home when we struck up a conversation with 2 guys from the Harrisburg area. We covered important topics like baseball and football, and then discussed our occupations. Both Bill and I were surprised to hear that one of the fellows, Jack Andrews, was an executive for Wegmans. Our wives were also employed by that company, but worked in Scranton. Jack worked out of Mechanicsburg. You 2 are from Northeast Pennsylvania, by Scranton, aren't you? Quizzed Jack. I attended a company meeting in Syracuse a few weeks ago and ran into a blonde bombshell from the Scranton Wegmans. She was built like a brick shithouse. Bill looked at me and smiled. We both knew he must have had run into Bill's wife, Gwen, and had been impressed by her. But then so was every man that had ever seen her. Gwen has a beauty. Bill turned back to speak to Jack. I was pretty sure he was going to mention that Jack must be referring to his wife before Jack could say anything inappropriate about Gwen. Too late. She could suck the chrome off a trailer hitch, chuckled Jack. Her breasts were really big and sensitive. I probably spent an hour being intimate with her breast. What a sweet piece of ass she is. I'm really looking forward to our fall meeting in Harrisburg. That one's for 3 days, so I'll be able to tap that ass 2 nights instead of just the 1 night I had with her this time. I was afraid Bill was going to smash the asshole over the head with his beer bottle, so I placed a hand on Bill's shoulder. I couldn't blame him if he did, but as a friend, it was my job to try to keep him out of jail. I felt Bill relax slightly. Sounds like quite a cheater, Jack. Did you happen to catch this little whore's name by any chance? Questioned Bill softly. Catch her name? Shit, we had to wear stupid name tags all day long. I remember hers especially well, since she had it stuck on her blouse right over her left tit, continued Jack. I spent more than a little time looking at her name tag during the meetings. If I hadn't sat down next to her, I probably would have slept through most of the day's events, like I usually do. I just go for the chance to party and meet new women that insist I attend to keep my job. We should be hitting the road, Bill, I quickly urged my friend, hoping to get the hell out of there before things got any worse, if possible. Do any of you know Gwen Adams? Jack asked, effectively ending my dreams of a clean escape. That was her name. If you ever met her, you would never forget her. If you ever had the opportunity to sleep with this bitch, be sure to make her give you a blowjob. She does an excellent job with that. 2 minutes later, we were in Bill's Corolla, headed east. I watched his driving closely for the first few minutes, worried about being in an accident. Bill seemed to be navigating quite well, if a tad bit fast. Then, if I had been Bill, I probably would have had the car floored, hoping to get as far away as possible before Jack came around. Bill's knuckles showed some blood, but not too much, considering the impact they had made on Jack's mouth. It was a wonder he didn't break his hand or cut his knuckle to the bone on the asshole's teeth. I remembered seeing a tooth lying on the bar as I pulled Jack away from the prone body of that dumb bastard. I had to marvel at Bill's confidence as I thought back to the altercation at the bar a few minutes ago. Bill had calmly told Jack that Jack must have the blonde confused with his own mother. He even told Jack that he was a spineless liar and that he was making up stories about Gwen. Naturally, Jack felt compelled to defend his honor, and he smacked Bill square on the chin. Back in our younger days, this was one of Bill's favorite pastimes. On more than a few occasions, I had watched Bill run his mouth until some guy hit him. Then Bill would grin and clean the guy's clock. Bill had been the youngest of 4 boys and grew up fighting. He possessed an iron jaw and devastating right uppercut, as Jack learned the hard way. It was good to see that Bill still had it, even after almost 20 years of marriage and towing the line. It only took one swing from Bill to end the battle. I could tell Bill was not in a talkative mood, so I kept my mouth shut and watched the scenery as I considered the situation. We had introduced ourselves as Tom Casey and Bill Kuntz. Jack even made the standard joke about Bill's last name, and we graciously laughed as if we had never heard it before. Gwen had been working at Wegmans for a year when she met Bill. When they married, Gwen told Bill that she was keeping her maiden name at work. She told Bill it would be simpler than changing all her information in the system, and it would prevent her from experiencing a great many tasteless jokes about her last name and her anatomy. At work, she was still known as Gwen Adams. Gwen was a walking wet dream. She and Bill had been married 19 years, had 2 kids, and she still turned heads wherever she went. She was blonde, long-legged, and, as Jack previously mentioned, had great breast. Bill and I had been friends since high school. That fact, along with my wife explaining to me in great detail just how she would remove my balls if I ever strayed, kept me from ever attempting anything more than admiring Gwen. I had never guessed she would cheat on Bill. Apparently, it was a complete surprise to Bill as well. Gwen and Bill had introduced me to my future wife, Teresa, at their wedding. Teresa had just started working at Wegmans with Gwen at that time. We seemed to hit it off pretty good right from the start. Teresa and I were married the following year. We now had a son in 8th grade and a daughter in her sophomore year in high school. Teresa was good-looking and had a nice figure, but Gwen was the one that men lusted after. I tried to put myself in Bill's situation, to imagine what he was feeling. Somehow I thought that knowledge might help me to ease his burden a little. He had to be suffering, and I was at a loss as to how to react. I liked both Gwen and Bill, and I wanted them to be happily married. That was partially for selfish reasons. We did a lot of things together, and Gwen and Teresa had grown close over the years. I was very happy with the status quo and didn't want it to change. They were also 2 of my favorite people, and I wished them well. This was some mess. I knew that I would be furious if Teresa had betrayed me. I had never given in to the temptations that crossed my path from time to time. Teresa had often made a point of expressing just how badly life would be for me if I ever weakened. I had never thought any woman was worth risking the loss of Teresa. I was pretty certain that she felt the same way. We weren't having hot monkey sex every night, but we still enjoyed our lovemaking. Bill was paying the price for having a very desirable wife. I knew that Gwen had to be hit on by men all the time. I had seen more than a few examples of that, sometimes while she was standing next to Bill. Maybe it was a good thing that Teresa's legs weren't as long as Gwen's, that her breasts weren't as big as Gwen's, and her face wasn't as young-looking and striking. Teresa was my wife and a mom of 2, and she looked the part. I would never be suffering the pain Bill was feeling now as he drove us home. Home? Shit. What would he do when he got home? Should I leave from my place immediately and let him and Gwen work it out? What if he was angry enough to hit Gwen? Should I hang around to keep some semblance of order? Did I want to hear what was going to be said? Did I want to watch the possible death of a marriage? I realized it would be a good idea to determine what Bill had in mind. I needed to talk to him. "Bill, talk to me, buddy," I began. "What are you thinking, and how are you going to handle Gwen when you get home? You know I can't let you do anything like you did to that asshole back at the golf course. I need to know you have some control of your emotions." "I couldn't strike Gwen if she was cutting my heart out with a garden tool," answered Bill grimly, "and it feels like that's exactly what she's done. I've been thinking it over, and I've decided to pack some things and check into a motel for a few days. I don't know that I can get past this, Tom. This is big. I had no idea that she could do something like this to me, to us. I've never cheated on her, and before today, I would have bet my life that she never would cheat on me. Man, this hurts." "Is there any way you can forgive her, Bill? There's no doubt in my mind that she loves you to death." "Leaving will crush her, Bill, even if she has pretty much done this to herself. You know how guys are always hitting on her. It's one of the problems with marrying the best-looking woman in the damn county." "Then how do you stand it, Tom? How do you keep Teresa happy and faithful? How do you keep the persistent guys away from her? She's drop-dead gorgeous, and you two seem to be doing okay, at least so far," added Bill. "Well, you have to admit that Teresa doesn't attract men the way Gwen does," I pointed out. "She's okay, but she isn't the walking wet dream that Gwen is. The temptations just aren't thrown at her as often as Gwen experiences." "What the hell are you talking about?" demanded Bill as he looked at me like I had two heads. "Teresa is smoking hot. Any normal man would give his left nut to get into her bed. Her ass is a work of art and her breasts are perfect. She was an incredible smile and seems to ooze sex appeal. Gwen looks pretty plain next to Teresa." "Are you nuts? Gwen looks like a goddess. She's always tanned and athletic looking, except for having unusually big breast. Gwen is the real beauty," I stated almost with reverence. Somehow I suddenly imagined the blowjob Jack had mentioned. Looking down and seeing Gwen was a fantasy I'd had for almost 20 years, but never thought possible. I suddenly realized that I hated that idiot Jack almost as much as I hated Bill. Maybe that's why I accidentally stepped on his crotch when I pulled Bill away from his prone body. "You must be blind or something, Tom. Teresa is incredible in every way possible. Gwen looks pretty good, I admit that, but you won the lottery when you hooked up with Teresa," insisted Bill. "On top of that, she isn't a damn cheating lady, and that's a real plus in my book." We fell silent again as we considered what we had just revealed to each other. Bill thought Teresa was hotter than Gwen. I was struggling with that notion. Gwen was drop-dead gorgeous. I never realized Bill thought so well of my wife. But then, I had never admitted to him how hot I thought Gwen was. We were still pretty quiet when Bill turned his car down his block. We both felt tense and showed signs of strain. Naturally, Bill seemed even worse than I did, but my stomach was in knots as well. I dreaded the next few minutes. As we pulled into the driveway, we immediately noticed several cars. I'd left mine parked there early in the morning when I caught a ride with Bill. Behind my car was a maroon 1967 Pontiac Le Mans convertible with the black top down. Behind it sat my wife's car. "What the hell, Bill? Doesn't that look just like that 3-speed Pontiac you used to have? Who the hell owns that beauty?" I asked as I scrambled out the passenger door before Bill had come to a complete stop. "Probably some jerk messing around with Gwen while I'm away," Bill replied angrily as he gazed at the convertible. Just then, the door to the house flew open, and Gwen and Teresa came running down the driveway with smiles as wide as the Pontiac. Seeing Gwen brought me back to the matter at hand. She had no idea the trouble she was facing. Even as I thought that, my attention swung to Teresa as she strolled happily toward me. I actually looked at her and studied her features and her figure. She did look pretty good. Maybe Bill had a point. She was just over 40, had given me 2 kids, and I realized that she was really quite beautiful. How did I ever think Gwen was more attractive? As Teresa closed the gap between us, I had the desire to drag her into the back seat of that freaking convertible and use it for what it was intended. I hugged Teresa to me just as Gwen greeted Bill. "Happy birthday, Bill," cooed Gwen as she wrapped her arms around Bill's neck. "I looked all over for that car for your birthday, darling. I found it down in Monticello a few weeks ago." When Gwen saw Bill's sour face and stiff attitude, she added, "Somehow you don't seem very happy about it, Bill." "You found it a few weeks ago? A few weeks ago, Gwen? Was that before or after that Friday and Saturday you spent at Syracuse for your frickin' job?" demanded Bill. "Oh, the attitude, Bill," questioned Gwen. "It was that very same weekend. I have a little confession to make. I didn't go to Syracuse. I went to Monticello to look at this car for you." Bill turned to look at me. I wasn't any help as I was as confused as he was. What the hell was that arsehole Jack talking about if Gwen wasn't even in Syracuse that weekend? This made no sense. He had described Gwen to a T. "I had to mislead you so you wouldn't be suspicious, Bill," laughed Gwen. "I booked for that trip, but never intended to go. I asked Teresa to fill in for me. I told her to tell Tom that she was going to visit her sister in Allentown that weekend. I thought she could use my room and eat and drink on Wegmans tab. All she had to do was walk around wearing my name tag and pretend to be Gwen Adams. It didn't seem like too much to ask a friend to do so that I could have a special surprise for my wonderful husband on his birthday." "You never went to Syracuse," shouted Bill as he hugged Gwen in his arms and lifted her off her feet. "God, I love you so much, Gwen. You're the best wife ever." "So it wasn't you. It was Teresa? Oh, shit." I felt like I had been hit in the stomach with a sledgehammer. I broke into a sweat and started trembling. I released Teresa and stumbled toward my car. Tears streamed down my cheeks. "Tom," called Teresa, "what's wrong? Why are you walking away?" What the hell is going on?" I ignored her. Just as I went to open my car door, my stomach decided to send up my dinner. I dropped to my knees and let it fly over Bill's well-manicured yard. Teresa was immediately next to me, rubbing my shoulders and asking what was wrong. "I guess I may as well fill you in, Teresa," stated Bill softly. "The jig is up. We ran into asshole Jack Andrews at the golf tournament today. He told us how he worked for Wegmans, attended the company's Syracuse meeting, and banged the living shit out of the blonde bombshell wearing a Gwen Adams name tag. I left the bastard lying on the floor next to the bar. Tom even kicked him in the balls as he dragged me away from the prick before I killed him. All the way home, we thought it was Gwen that slept with the miserable fuck, but we just found that wasn't the case. It was you, Teresa, and I have to tell you that I'm disappointed in you, but Tom is literally sick about it. Now you're up to speed, and I don't envy you at all," concluded Bill. "You thought that guy was talking about me, Bill? You thought I cheated on you? I should take that friggin' car and get my money back. How could you think I would do something like that? Have I ever given you reason to think I was unfaithful? Ever?" demanded Gwen loudly. "Don't try giving me that shit," replied Bill. "You lied to me. You told me that you went to that meeting in Syracuse, and this guy said he fucked a beautiful blonde that wore your name tag. We all know that you and Teresa are by far the best-looking women at Wegmans, or any place around here for that matter, and you're both blonde. I know for a fact that you're a wildcat in bed, so why would I doubt what he told us?" Wow, you have a point, Bill. I see how you could make that wrong assumption. You really think Teresa and I are that good looking? Oh, wildcat, fished Gwen. I guess I owe you an apology for that little white lie, and for wondering why you jumped to conclusions. It was now trying to bring up breakfast. I was into the dry heaves, which seemed even more painful. I could hear Teresa crying as she rubbed my shoulders. The part of my mind that was working was thinking how blind I had been. Teresa really was gorgeous and a wonderful wife. I should have paid more attention to what she did and with whom she did it. I should have kicked that bastard in the balls harder. I realized that while I had tried to put myself in Bill's position when he thought his wife had cheated on him, I really had no idea how badly he was hurting, until now. I don't quite know how to tell you the rest of the story, ventured Gwen, so I think I'll let Teresa do the talking. Tom, listen to me, darling. I'm guilty of lying to you, and I sincerely apologize for that, but I would never, ever cheat on you. I love you with all my heart, sobbed Teresa. Gwen didn't get to finish her story. I didn't go to Syracuse in her place. I refused her suggestion. Instead, I went with her to Monticello to pick up Bill's birthday car. Gwen convinced a new employee, Jessica Walters, to take her place. She's just transferred from Buffalo after a nasty divorce. She's blonde, but I don't think she's nearly as hot as Gwen or I. My stomach relaxed immediately. I spit out whatever particles I could locate in my mouth and slowly got to my feet. Teresa stood next to me, wringing her hands and trying to smile through her tears. I had never seen her look so beautiful or desirable. My breathing gradually slowed to normal as I wiped my eyes and mouth with the back of my hand. I got you that brand new set of Nike golf clubs you've been all moon-eyed over the past year, Tom. I was going to wait until your birthday next week to give them to you, but I'm trying to earn some forgiveness here. They're in the trunk of my car. Would you like to see them, sweetheart? Asked Teresa nervously. They can wait a minute or two, Teresa, I replied calmly. I must have had some bad seafood or something for dinner, but I feel better now. I never thought it was you that asshole Jack was talking about. I know you too well to think anything like that. I have no idea why the hell Bill even suggested it. My stomach gives me some trouble and everyone jumps to conclusions. There seems to be a lot of that going on around here. Yeah, right, laughed Bill. You didn't have fish for dinner, you jerk. It was prime rib, and I had the same food you did. It wasn't anything you ate. No, I asked. Didn't I stand by you while you barfed your guts out at that rest stop? We had something that didn't agree with us. I would guess that the thought of being married to a cheating lady is the thing that doesn't agree with either of you, laughed Gwen. Are you guys hungry now that your stomachs are purged? Not me. It's almost dark. I'm going for a ride in my new car, topless, so to speak, grinned Bill. Would anyone care to join me? I'd love to, laughed Gwen as she nimbly stepped right over the door and dropped into the passenger's seat while Bill was climbing behind the wheel. If you two aren't coming with us, we'll see you later, but you'll regret missing the maiden voyage, promised Gwen. I stood with Teresa and watched as Bill moved the stick shift around in search of reverse and then slowly released the clutch. Gwen's shirt landed at our feet before Bill had traveled a foot. Wow, look at Gwen, gasped Teresa. I'm looking. I have to accept it. Bill was right about two things. You do have nicer breasts than Gwen. I admitted as Teresa wrapped her arms around my neck and whispered in my ear. The back seat is empty and we were invited. Thanks for watching. If you enjoyed this story, don't forget to like this video, comment your thoughts below, and of course subscribe to the channel for more gripping stories like this one. And make sure to hit the notification bell so you never miss an update. See you in the next one.